Questionable questions. No. The first question: will the Dalai Lama always be reborn in the Gelug school? La.
Understand.
And Dalai Lama rawal. Katuine ani che Gelug be ta na be chigunala. Gelug le. Lugle kigir be tungir be sondu. Katuine.
Ta danda de yongda ge jan kunding doya de da kilo lama chaga ore jumden khalasana kunding thangbo di jaw gindu dorwa jaw gindu do de da jerum maching nang thukse ta wes de da jerum maching mixe ge ane tambate sa da nyamlemba tende chi loma jiri de ge de ge da gyawar di gyawa de lemba yinzang di kilo ba thumer wa jaw gindu thangbo de jaw gindu tubar wa di chede 지난 여름시 양시 담면도 지어는데 단다 용다 군딩 정화대 기시짐에 사자 가와 미리 간대질 계획이네 야 길룩다 자 임바레스타디 뛰는 마타 버레스 도사 제요 마레스타
To date, predominantly historians the Dalai Lama has been reborn in the Gelug order of Tibetan Buddhism. It started with Gendun Drup, who was a very close disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa, who Lama Tsongkhapa saw as someone earnest in practice and who was given many personal instructions. So Gendun Drup, or Victoria's Gendun Drup, then became part of the 14 line of reincarnation. So as far as the Gendun Drup is concerned, he is unmistakable follower of a Gelugpa order, and by dint of that, subsequent incarnations also adopted Gelugpa order of Buddhism. Now, the 15th reincarnation of His Holiness, again, wherever the reincarnation may be born, will adopt Gelugpa order, and the reincarnations belong to Gelugpa order is what is called Tuna Matakpa, means unworshipably embedded.
단다 먼저 건들라 제도와 건들라 제디 단다 엄마 단다 여기 뉴트브 지고간라 냠레 닌주 체제 사메게 냠레 믹스에게 된다 디 베제간라 요마레 단다 샤카리마스니지 요라 디틱디 인지 측을 줘요나 책년보 심라 속보 쇼제로다 제 쇼직다 저런 tembe tenlu lama tembe tenlu ro ane chik tibjo nyembo dinala da kandela jegi nyamlen zo be ne dinala sungsha yore sora chis dino pande sangbora de da ne kandela je chis igi galama papjang zo danda je yuwa chungoro mi shi mama ina tus nyenju chi je ya mixe ge da nyamlen ba shu zo lo mi shi ji di 내가 시 등산 배제 유제나라 유대와다 미제가 다 유대와 되게 말했어 두스 디디 단다디 저기 뉴트브도 간라 간델라 제도 냠네 사회 냠네 좋아니 년주에서도 간사 직직배 년에 년주어 메시지게 네 maybe 당와 지금 뭐 디갑도 세브레도 단다 간들 하지도.
For instance, Kantin Hagyama seven sublime practice in relation to Lama Tsongkhapa was given discreetly to select few, and it was not publicly taught. So the first reincarnation of His Holiness made a hint about, made a reference and a hint that there was or that there is such a practice as that deities of 100 joyous land, the 100 deities of the joyous land. In his poetic rendition, where called Shagangrima, the eastern mountain peaks, where he laments missing Lama Tsongkhapa, and as in that he made a reference to Kandel Hayama practice. Then it was later on another master called Dulna Pandit Sangbo. Dulna Pandit Sangbo. He is said to have written it down to make it available to wider followers of the practice. Before then, it was in Nyingju, means air whispered.
Aye, that too is no.
To become enlightened, you have to traverse the Burmese. In order to do that, you need a valid path and a valid teacher to show the path. Jason Sankyabala and Sada Lam to go to Sraval, Sada Lam Trabala and the Lam Yang Tabu go to the Gavishing Yang Tabu go to. And does Geshe-la think that this is possible in faiths other than Buddhism? Nangbale Shembe Chulu Chugu Shendalwa, and the Tindega Salam Ge Dun Sanke Yubachik Lam Yang Taba, Shengi Yaba 10, and Sanke Salatoi Bachik. You couldn't agree, Namsondo.
Oh, that the cook of your mother study.
So,
Nangwala Majinana cook of your mother
without being prejudicial and partisan, but I have to say, no chance.
Da Sanjevala Nangbe Nane Sanjevalo, Niawade, Nala Sugar Message, Nala Mashuna, Sanje Yomara. Jidantanda, the pageant take where Sanje and Baji Shigi or the data. Sanje Yove to Jeremy, Sanje look at the pageant take when Nala Savaja Yomara, Sanje Yores, Sanje Gushi or Sigrid, Dosha Jagar Measure. Such one Sanje Salad Rodangi, Rimbaji Orwada, Sanje look at the Diski research or the Sega Yomar, Pena. And then to a league, pageant well, Tajado Massageto, Sanje or Killing or the race. Such one, pageant with such a Tomney, and Tajado Massageto, Ngalam La Shugje, and Chow to Sunju Kumbang on the Chevadi, those to we are Nangbada Tajimero, Nangba Mayimba the Tazakhoir, Nangba Yimba the Shemo, Nangbe Nane, Sanjevala Injimiji, Nganane, Ngalamela, Shuk Namishi, Sanje Kumbato Sayo Maresra.
So I said no chance for a reason. Firstly, let alone there being opportunity in other spiritual traditions, even in Buddhism, to really enter enlightenment, you have to have tantra or mantra, secret mantra practice. It's only by using the tools taught in mantra that a highly evolved person can enter enlightenment. Perfection vehicle, common perfection vehicle, does indeed talk about Buddhahood, four kayas of the Buddha, and going up to the 10 Bodhisattva Bhumi. After that, it only says, after the 10th Bodhisattva Bhumi, you become enlightened. But it doesn't exactly say how one becomes enlightened. For instance, and then the question is, how about Shakyamuni Buddha? How did he, because in common perfection vehicle perspective, he made it, he went through the system of 5 parts and 10 bhumis, and it is described that he attained enlightenment. It indeed went as far as the 10th Bodhisattva bhumi, and then there was a need for him to enter mantra, especially highest yoga tantra mantra, tantric practice. It is only this one that really presents the process whereby one becomes fully enlightened. So there's a need for valid information and authority that teaches. I have read that there is no instinctive grasping at permanent self, as this is a learned non-Buddhist tenet. As we instinctively know things are grossly impermanent and accords with worldly experience. The instinctive grasping is for innately existing self. So if we instinctively grasp at permanence, it would be very difficult to function. We would instinctively think that weather will not change, or I'll be a child, or I'll be a child forever, or 40 years old forever, or we would expect food would not grow. All these show we instinctively know change, growth, impermanence is the norm. Ta tak bola jimbal lengki tanzin lengki ta tak bola jimbal lengki yo ma de che tang kang la she na ta tak ba jimbal ni drupte jangbe nangbe maim be ta wa res kang la she na nganju lo lengki ki tu che nam rakbe meta ba yin ba to ba dishin jiten ki nyonga kyang drup ta jimbal lengki ro wa 당진 행지 승고 지난때는 짐벌 행지 때네 인넷 짐벌 행지 때네 행기 유배 다기 짐벌레서봐 짐벌 행지 때네 행기 유배 다기 짐벌레스 결대 완주 행기게 딱벌 행기 완주 결대 완주 또로 행기게 서로 그죠 또 행기 끼 딱벌 수나라와 Jawa kayang je motu Jawa kayang je minu so sraba minu te lo lenje ke sambar namchi gyukyum mare yana ta kam nga ta de jiba ta pu ne ge re yana nga lo shipju yana lo shipju de ge re yana ton to ta minge yana ton lo to memba miguro sam sraba data ne ju data gi sraba nganju lo lengki ki gyuantang rakbe metabe yobani ngui ke rangshi yimba to sondo tene dewa nyiba del koda te taw tangba dewa tangba tush dewa tangba dula dewa that's new education there are two sets of questions I haven't read the second should I read the second part the second the second set of questions. Everything seen self is surely only seen in the aggregates. So all the stress, tension, emotional upset is only in the mental aggregates, not in the eye of various time zones. This is a much more subtle position than grasping at permanence, as it involves rational analysis. The thing about it, 这样讲言呢，这样导到通案点呢，导到能往他们通案点呢，碰不可能让到通到能是吧？加上 stress, tension, emotional upset， 这长嘛是吧？长嘛一个些被碰不可能让到能通是吧？跌打打到啊，打到哇毛吧，代表打毛别打了多是吧？similar to， 可是碰不碰不多，打了对么多，等你大概超准备，如果他们加把结果呗，差呗超型能什么拉送的？
我这里在当今现在民族老了。
当今现在那就了。
民族说，当今现在有的社会人，当我当今滚到的现在是那卡拉过了，第二我先过了当我。
First, let's be clear about the two forms of takzin, henki and takzin kuntak. Okay, that tak means permanent, zin means grasping, henki means inborn or innate grasping or innate belief in permanence. Then the next is takzin kunta. Takzin means again grasping at permanence, intellectually formed. So,
답변은 딱질 현재라데 딱고 점바사데 고 주어도에 매든 요식 그 로그 찬나라와 로드 찬나제 진주 로록시로하고 고 윤지민지 그 매발라 그로 진절라 요고 말아와 세상 배낭은저 둡달라 마슈베 먼저다 배나 부구춘주로와 부구춘주 저절라야 딱지여로 콘솔라 먼저 다도 군다고 도단데 제요 말아 콘솔라 아니 딘데요레 탭직 그 계산하게 데 코로나 탭이하고 저 가보요나 디 트링 탭들라스나 아니 예 탭과 스트링 라 탭지나 요 메다 탭사르 부구디 셈나는 계산하게 탭디 단다 요와 난신지 셈나는 딘데게 요와 어디 당질 현재 탭짐베 당질 딘게 부구춘주라 요르 점무제야 된데 아니 매부 차도 ngay 점제 거기서 무도 보고 가르서나 그 단질 현지대 왕게 계산하기 점제야 등아 탄다 여 챙겨요로 되게 단질 현지에 요데 부구 춘줄래 데모 부구 뭐고 한다 차리다서 들려요래 단질 현지에 난다 차 치우도 들려 현지에 용거요래 그 가르서나 계산하게 강바 데스디나라 드링 로도 하고 근데 원하시는 강바 메다티 상마 차자네 그 양자대 연구도 계산하게 단다 데드 요샤 제제 그 연구여로 하고 창도 미그 창도 파 메다접 떨샤위네 주디 딱다 연구도 안 게 창대 대유 창여 말 직차리나 데 주디 심나라 그 강바데 데데여로 당질 현지 예외 룹지 된대요래
So, takzin henchis ne geshira takpai chanang rigata.
네, 나 데데 요트 봐. 찍거라. 딱과 데데 요 계산데 요 드링 계산하기 따라 한자 요 텐데 그러.
So,
나와샤데 짐버라 봐. 딜로록시로 하고.
So, takzin henki okay what is called innate belief or grasping at permanence is distorted awareness, and um, it believes what was in the past will be in the present, and that can be much more clearly appreciated in the response of a very young child who has who has been given a very beautiful book, and it loved the book so much. Unfortunately, the book got burned yesterday, and the child says, "Bring my book. Where's my book?" And the child imagines, the child imagines the book they had yesterday must be here today, and that there's an appearance, there's a there's a flow of the appearance of the book of yesterday now up to now. So that um, is another. Not only that, Takten Henke, such form of grasping at permanence or belief in permanence is also clearly seen in animals. For example, let's say a bird has formed a nest a certain or among the branches of certain tree or against the wall of some house. For example, my house used to have a bird nest. After it got destroyed, the bird kept coming and going right to the spot where the nest used to be, and that the bird who doesn't know any language has this feeling the nest which was there now gone would be there now too.
다 단다 디 먼저 단다 간사 딱지 롱진데 좀 짐바사죠. 델라 현재 요마라 다디 쳐바치고라. 단다 먼저 단다 치료베 된 신기되베 딱지 간사 딱지 롱지 다 간사 딱was다 와서나 간사 단지 현재 요래로. 다 간사 딱지 롱진데 좀 다선 딱바와 죠 랑 짐바 체주 숨된게 아니 다 짐베 땅지 델라 군다메쇼 델라 현재 요마라 다베제 단다 템나를 기지 셔야 돼 비전 디시게 유지를 다 비슈 신다 다 다고즈메 단질행지 메딜라게 유지 말해.
So the now course self of person, subtle self of person, coarse self person, coarser or the very coarse self of person has the element of self being permanent, unitary and independent, and that this doesn't have innate grasping at that. It is only intellectually formed grasping at person being permanent. So 저는 댐나 딘도 요 말을 댐나 이바딜라
템나를 요데 딱지 롱지 딘베 짐바델라 군다메 실행지 요마르스 티인지르미시 간사 단질행지 요마르세 티페진 요.
So I'm sure the book didn't say that people do not hold person to be the book didn't say that people don't hold the person to be permanent. In other words, the book would have the position of the book would have been there are belief systems among people that a person is permanent.
계시 탭 딘데제나 아니 다 저거 자래
So then, if there is such a book, then
Zombo bosi na de show la zo ja yere de ni
and
de mare
so if there is such a book with such content, an international forum, debate forum, needs to be conducted and bring that person, and then we can have an informed debate.
Kora kansa tawo se dansi lenje mi de singi kora range kisa ngada tere nga chikwa yi sam zindegi jira lenje yugi la mela de jira.
So the person who is such a person who says there's no innate grasping at permanence of self, when asked to come and to have a debate, I'm sure they would come up, they'll turn up to the debate site, believing that there's no difference between their self yesterday and their self now about the debate.
제가 이 간사 딱지 라완지는 좀 좀바 될라다 현재 요 말해서요 치료에 대 인진 비직다 치료에 와 치료에 먼저 치료에 되게 다샤고로 치료에 되게 치료에 줍대어 온게 근데 진짜 배나 제다 지샤고래 풍불에 tensionbe 딱 딱봐 죠 규진을 되게 라와 차셔를 되게 죠 진주를 되게 딱봐 된대지다 네 다시 그래서 딱지로 치료에 되게 tensionbe 풍불에 tensionbe 다서디 다들 시나 뭐고 대 생기 요 말에 됐어요.
So it's absolutely clear that the position of self to be permanent, unitary, and independent is never is never innate grasping at self, because it says the person is permanent without undergoing moment to moment change. It's unitary because it doesn't have parts, and it is independent in that it doesn't depend on anything. So it exists. Such attributes are and such properties are nothing short of attribution concocted. Therefore, no innate.
다 먼저 단다 군다스 디오들 군다스 해야 되다 줍대 온 샤송 아니 빼는 먼저 군다 신시직 샤는 데래 먼저 이슈게 따돌려 주나 아니 먼저 솔라디 켈렌치기도 먼저 낭배 미지가 솔사디 켜는 켈렌치가 말해 이슈게 줍달려 주니다 롭종 유니 이슈 이 오늘 고선이도 솔사디 요레스 다 이슈게 줍달려 주니 지금 메시지게 신다기 켈렌치가 말해 군다스 짐버데레다.
So, an instance of kunta, kunta means intellectually informed form or intellectually formed, grasping at permanence, would be the notion of soul. And soul is a strong position in Christianity. An educated Christian theologians, they know many attributes and attributes to soul, and they believe, they adhere to the attributes given to the soul. So that is an instance of grasping at permanence formed through tenet system.
디니 쳐봐대 건서 시고야대 은에 개천벌에 구다들 현지 군다 세야대 두대 왕게 짐벌록시데 짐벌록바지 용거다 짐벌록바지 용거라.
It's quite important for us to make a clear distinction between innate and innate belief, innate grasping, and kunda means intellectually formed grasping. So intellectually formed grasping is a belief system built up uh, by the proponents and is believed to be lokshit means distorted. No.
다 현지에서도 줍달라 슈고도 마슈고 저선 치우도도 줍달라 슈세 뭐라 보고 춘주도 줍달라 슈세가 뭐라 콘조줄라 짐바도 레기도 단지 현지도 당 칸사 단지 현지 템바도베 텐지 현지도 레용으로
No.
그래서 현지에서도 저 가면 콤베 온게 강아 슈슈게 저 가면 콤베 망보 온게네 먼저 강아 슈슈게 용데 들어가고 콜레 인지민지게 니 줍진다 된데 그거예요 말. 그 유디파 샤연드네 람예 그거요 말에 고란쇼기 로라야 샤르제다 파자 온 거로.
So innate grasping. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Innate grasping. Innate grasping at self. Innate grasping at self happens through the force of habituation across many lifetimes. So, a very young child, for instance, and the birds, for instance, they haven't had any information about these, but upon the appearance of the object, which may now be not present, but a grasping, uh, uh, grasping at impermanence, that what was there yesterday should be here now. So it happens due to the force of habituation.
다던데 디 저 타마데 렌데 스트레스라도 심라도 말하면도 소라
Lare.
심라 여자 말아요 샤오레스로.
So
심라 강에다 디 여바 인자 말 강에 여바디 샤고여 빼난 나 락반나디 아니 나 나와 하고도 나 나가도 가르서는 게 락반나가도 쓰지 숙부 나가여 배장 나 나가도 쓰 심라 디 심 기워요 나 기워도 심 기우면 나 기우면도 사 도스레미셔 나 코라 김마지 샤가야 말나 코라 타고 체시로 체네 체주디 얘기 되어요인데 네 체시들 주어로 되게 여러다 도스레미셔 나서 누구 독사스 믹세 다 라고 말해 제가 셈당아 더슈크 체시요래 다 반나던다 앵자데도 스트레스도 다 스트레스 인지 민지가 셈지고라 셈라 연에 나라 요샤거데 룰레 레초도 알아와서 룰레 요나 나라 요 셈라 요나 나라 요다 던다도도 데레데 기디 개와요 말이죠 말했어.
So the second part of the question, and that is, if everything seen as self is surely only seen in aggregate, so all the stress, tension, upset is only in the mental aggregate, not in the I. Indeed, stress and so on are in the mind, because stress and so on in the mind. So I is said to have that, because for example, if if a hand is hurt and there's a problem with the hand, then you say I'm hurting, and when in fact it was your hand. So that is because hand and mind, for example, is the basis part of aggregates, basis on which I is dependently labeled. And so stress can not only be in the mind, there can be physical stress. If the body is in stress, yes, I have stress. I have stress because your body has, not that your body is I or you or the body, but I is labeled onto the aggregate. So when the basis of designation experience these things, I, the labeled, naturally is said to experience the same.
다들 yuanya tsangmo nga la dine yungo ra thangbo nga shi ta la shin ju ji sikdo thangbo nga sa de shin tene nge sim ani sim da nge nga che ni nge tam nge lakba nge kangba nge sim ani nge pinja nge lungba chikpa sta du che je nga da nge se thangbo nga yungo ra nganji yungo ra anda di pande dawa tu umo ju gwen 당보 ngashi dala shinjuji daga dishingala chaji suju chunda rawa mewa yi dola nyingji jugan dila desungda 당보 anzu changme nga sayadi shingiresa nga sayadi an te chi su ane nganzi nilenguresa ane di wangi ane lesa shirwa ane kowa dila ya da kodigi yoresi duksya dan chigre da de nganzi da ngayo wa zimba dodan chigre dodan chig yorwa de
So, in most cases, as Chandrakirti says in Madhyamika Avatara, conceiving or thinking I, beings become attached to self. Targetisha, saying mine or believing this is or mine they become attached to the external or anyway they become attached to the adjunct of that first I, and then in other case beings have the view of a transitory collection of I and mine, and due to this view, due to the belief in the view, then they develop other forms of other mental formations, such as in other words, they develop other prejudices of for and against. Due to I, there is a mine, and then you say my hand, my something of the same continuum, and then my family and my and so on. Something belonging to I of the different continuum and material possession, so on. And out of attachment to these, people collect karma, and then vicious karma sets in motion a vicious wheel of existence.
다들 더요디 근데 군인이 더요디 신고다 nga 풍부다 nga 바로 더요디 싫어.
So what is important to know is the relation, and we need to know that there is the relationship between Pungbu and aggregate skandhas and I.
신다 되거든.
Latul. Keshila mentioned meditating on death and impermanence in order to counter gross level of grasping at the self-person. 다른 쪽에 계시라기 안 치워 메타보당 안 메타 치워데 메타보 고메 디르바 안 당진 가서 당진 락바 당진 락보 고에 돈도라 아니 치워 메타보당 아니 치워데 메타보 고노 편도 요르 송송스러. Buddha also teaches meditation on death as important at the beginning of the path. And Sangye did myself, and it's a chiwa metabo comedy lam ngunla get him soon to Usra for gaining. For gaining realization, For gaining Lam realization, should we think on death and impermanence or stress good devotion first, which is the root of path? Jasang salam ko tokwa nyel rawa. Ani chige sangyas na ingula metabo kom kogres, na metabo kono tokwa shul kigres. Jasang di metabo kom ko shu kya kogre, yamani shige lame nenju rawa, lam ko so inzang, and dil shu kya kogres sono. Ta karil ungula, karil shu kya kogres sono.
가르는 숙자 그랬어요.
다 가르고 검고 그래. nenten제나 가르다 nenten지고 그래서는.
그래다 미다고 그래. 다 당부 미다고 공고 그러네. 단다 미다고 삼는 단계로. 미다고 삼는 단계이나 네 계지계지기 조어도와디 신로와 아니 단다 다른 셰어나시 아니 단다로지. 당하는 뒤제 삼제 예, 체니 체와다 끼니 지바다 로아 디이 임바데 하고이나 고란신도 하고 다드네가 수수 류디 지기와 류징니 다 가와두고도 삼단디 아니 가와다마 마두고도 야두고도 삼다이로와 이 제도다 딜레교에 버슬로가 삼단디 아니 군조숨라도 다 군조숨게 아니 산제 군조 잡던바보고 다 구잡 숭구숭잡 투구투자데 아니 다 저라마 차고요. 산제 단당한 중에서 제요 뭐는 것이 제요와디다. 아니 교신이 들어왔다. 대 산제 구잡다고 세제. 아니 어딜야다. 기긴된다는데 림바 두슬레레스 봐.
So between the two, which one should one stress? I would argue one should put emphasis on understanding impermanence first. And as you reflect on impermanence through many avenues, from following different lines of reasoning, it will become clear that things or compounded things never remain the same as even a second, even a moment. So you will, or the one will come to appreciate, come to realize the momentary change, and then all compounded things they meet and they part, and they are born, then they die, and now self, the body of one's body, we can see the body is changing and ever moving towards one direction, and then towards the end of life. There one should think, I can see myself now going somewhere. Where am I likely to go? Up or down? So when we realize possibility of falling down, then there will be a genuine need to seek support of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three jewels. The Buddha as the guide, but the Buddha is not here. The one who represents Buddha for one is one's spiritual mentor or the Guru. The Guru is physical representation, speech representation, and also represents the qualities to be imparted, so on. So in this way you can see an order between the two.
단다디 전화도 다 먼저 참마 간절치고 와 곰제고 라셔다르 참마로 먼저 다 뒤에 참마 저 곰제고요래 니다 니장가라 당고 예꾸는 제차네로 와도 꾸는데 잔주승 꾸는야고 제차와다가 아니 틱다 디교난데래 까마라를 마메다 규모스워 추다 밀란로 단트인데 주제슈나다 다세데 다 미다고 벨라 자난디고 디게 참마지나 디 쇼담제 라시두에 동배 벨레 자초고래 까마라 리세데 아니 지 까마도 직선하고라 샤용고 니메고라 매와 차도 통하여도 매번 차도 미다고 뺄라 자난 되기도 하고 아니 지 규모 수워서도 다빼 세간게 시버더라 코 직초저와 코툭 채우다가 마살산 직도보다 더다 미다베 아니 지 뺄라 코시와 제가 두 스틱에 삼노다나 미다고 당고 미다고 삼노 텔다나디 나도 유만차 쇼베 군론제산이 식도 된 데가 봐 당하랑서 파주 셰로 제일 제비너로 전나 담제 귤레 중 디주디시 식외소 귤로고 칸 계정 준비 되게 송사지도 어쨌든 제든제 네초 담제 당한서 미다 귤레드네 총어레스 봐 유연레드네 총어레스다 유연레드네 총어레 네 계시직배 최전에 샤스로 좀 된데 송만하신다 다가라레 레다 그래서 유연레드네 총능 안저겠다 남차 gen직되게 조셔도 제자다 다 단다 직배 유진지 태외 있는 직도 그래 직니다 시베 있는 가와제벌린 그래 손을 제벌린도 그래 딜레 교회 누바데 아니 군조선래 여와 이체와 당 아니 지 되게 단대 내가 그래서 셈마지에서로다 강에 위해서로도 수별렌제 수수 총어가 날라 강에 위된 조다 미통된 조도 수련데 되게 자와야 가war래도네 직다 되자 세당 건동하게 타도나 미시몽바 마리발라 투데요 마리바데다 지가베 가자 유나면나 삼다요데 아니 데식 세베세바지다 용사레 삼제다 타르와 유발라 저 아니 디주디시시고에서 귤로고바 가임 바 계절시고에서 제 되게다 꼭된 유바 꼭된데다 타르와 문에 초군조 데려와 근데지를 삼다anje 다데 아니 지 고된 토발라 람 냠네 초라 람 냠네 초라 람 태고라 람 태고라 셰고라 셰발라 아니 기겐즈진 땡고도 다 기겐자신 버리샤섬 두스 거래 잡제 삼노데 스타나 야보도 다 거래 수수 삼노 간에 따나리고 얘네 견나리고 얘네 도나 디스스스 겨왕함에 바자당 아니 직수수 기겐게 랍자 잡당당 수수 삼노 당당당 바네 수수수 직당아 열었다 대주 지도스네 책 직도나 야보도 책 진랍 보던데 아니 책대 단다라 삼노 당기 책 도스제 당보지 직딘시게 삼로 롭지 유에 더네다 직 타르바스니지다 요구 초사레다 타르바 토발라 람냠네 치고도 람냠네 치고라 태우고도 태발라 셰고도 셰운데다 문에다 단다 데스테 삼다 요테 기웨시니 거리를 마음벌레 기웨시니 예와도 고고도 우체 엔 신이딘 주간라 슈기야데 두 삼다나 두스제나 야보더라
So, in order for us to develop or to emphasize the reliance on the Guru as a way of moving towards nirvana and enlightenment, it's good to it's good to recite, for instance, this stanza called Kama Rabri Mamet Guma Sepu Chubota Milam Lota Tintapo. So in a way, like a star, Rabri means falling hair, or Rabri means falling hair, illusion, dewdrop, Kama Guma Sepu Chubota, like dream, lightning, Guma Sepu Chubota. Like these, all phenomena are subject to change; they never last. Although this stanza can also be is also used to convey to give discourses on emptiness, but we can easily bring it to the context of reflection on impermanence too, and so it's good to recite these, think about the meaning, and then meditate, and let that meditation on impermanence be an impetus now to turn to a spiritual path, necessarily via having assistance of a qualified guru. So for my part, whatever I do, every day I wake up, I recite this stanza about dental as a dependent origination. It says, all phenomena arise from causes. The cause for these phenomena, the Buddha taught what these causes are. So
chunam tanje gyula chung, tiju dijin shuwe, gyula kokwa kanyi mas.
gyula kokpa kayimba.
Gejun chumbe tinga songs.
So gyula kokpa and to how to how to prevent cause, how to prevent cause that Mahashamana, meaning the great sage, has taught. So this is as Omiyetama. This is the mantra, Omiyetama mantra. That's the mantra for that. So Jigwe Gyujin. So it is important for me when I recite these. Anything that has come into being from causes is necessarily going to change, it's going to perish, because it is built in the cause. And also bring one's own personal experience, how many events take place in one's life, from which you have had different experiences, some pleasant, some unpleasant, or strong desire, strong enmity, and so on. So where do they come from? According to Buddha, they come from ignorance. Now the question is it possible to end ignorance? How is it possible? Why is it possible? Is it possible because ignorance is not grounded in fact, is grounded in figment of imagination, is grounded based on mistake. That which is grounded in mistake is subject to correction, valid correction. When that mistake, the key distortion responsible for afflictions to arise, when it is ended, with that gone, all the edifice of mental afflictions constructed by ignorance, that distortion will collapse on themselves. When that collapses, there is no more suffering at all. So that is nirvana. So one sees a definite possibility. But nirvana can, but for that we need the tool, the cutting edge tool of wisdom to cut through ignorance, and then to turn to path and bring path to one's life. One must know what the path is, and for that one needs to learn, hear, and to learn and hear, and to keep the transmission life force of the practice intact. One needs a qualified spiritual master. So anyway, one should see what is good for you, suitable for you. Each person is different, so one has to personalize something sharp, short tool for one. But for example, by reciting such impregnant stanzas, and therefore then cogitate on the meaning, the need to realize them, for which you need the path. For the path, we need the teacher to teach, to show the path, and therefore the emphasis to rely on the guru will become apparent.
제가 다디 미다고 삼다네 신이딘 주거나 삼다나 대 이제 삼로 야가 있으래로 근데 남림도 주나나다 당보 신이딘 주 당보 제 된저든지 지원미다고 니와 여러와
네.
다도저 지시샤래 가서 그래 아직 레군데 켈레니 아니 지경아지 켈레니 아니 지 두제 탐제 미다고 뭐 켈레니 아니 지 산제스니 지 요와 켈레니 두제 두줄레 시샤 지제 송샹교지래도 당한저 된데 말와 단다 제가 제가 김전징은 삼단제 아니 신이든지 제대 검샤비나 지오미다고 제스 당 사과의 딘시기 삼로디 대제 삼로 땅제 수도 단다 찍도 마 겨제 대 거든들레인데 아니 신도 대 람람니 지 된데 고고도 미시지 람람니 지 매나 하나서 지 탭로다 탭로 버지고 게추 양타고 지 랑도 시도고 말에 안 팅상 다 타제간라니 몽고 요르들레 디 차상어지 연구 말에 당원에게 기겐신인데 개주무시 차되샤스르와 세상다 인디장갈라 처음에다 제스 신이딘즈 검샤베이나 이제 신이딘즈 부타가 연구면 로팅이더라.
So I personally think the order just we talked about, which one do we stress first? Understanding of impermanence or relying on the guru? I think I personally believe if people meditate on, learn about impermanence, reflect on the meaning of impermanence, become quite well versed, and feel impermanence, then rely on teachings on Four Noble Truths and so on, for which we need the guru to teach and so on. After that, if you turn to the guru as an important gateway for one's spiritual journey, so that order is good. In the Lamrim, for example, in the Lamrim, first of all, the topics are precious human rebirth, and then guru devotion, then death and impermanence. So the order is different. Such an order of discourse between the two and others is given to communities, in the Buddhist communities, where people unquestionably accept karma, three jewels of past and future lifetimes. For them, the order, as in the Lamrim, is quite acceptable and has worked. But for the followers of Buddhism from other societies, where one can't take for granted, the followers believe in karma, rebirth, three jewels, liberation. People have a more kind of analytical bent of mind. For them, if things like impermanence, Four Noble Truths, possibility of overcoming delusions, and so on are presented, they will relate more well with with this order. And later on, then they will realize that they need to be guided, they need to be informed fully by a qualified source, the guru. By simply reading books, for example, Although one may read a valid source, but an X factor, as it were, is missing there, and therefore, and the online teaching these days, uh, one may not. It is, I'm afraid, full force of the Dharma by dint of the salient relationship between the teacher and the taught is missing. Therefore, despite getting a lot of information, but may not necessarily yield the desired outcome.
tanda de ya tanda nge suju jamjo marda kombe rimba dirwa
No.
chujun chamba kombo ge ngondo jenan la ani dubdan demba nanda ni sanje la so kunjo sum chene ani nyamlen shina rimba sung yore tangbo ro rang yu ngo la demba sdi ani demba ni gi samlo tang ani mi yu demba shil la tamba sa denshi nyamlen che ani de jesu ani shindu jamro jasung nyamlen che odi sung yorwa odi ro yor tanda nga 당고 미다고 삼다 아니 대시 삼다 되네 신이 된주다 접송고 삼다 걸 써야돼 근데 도단디 시샤치제 어두스토고 요레스디 네 subject 요 말다스디
So that is better for us uh, to first teach, reflect on impermanence, and then the Four Noble Truths, Four and True Truths, and after which, when people really want to become, want to immerse themselves, they will feel the need to get more, to learn more, and then relying on the Guru. And I base my statement on Maitreya Buddha's work, Abhisamaya Alamkara. There, in one of the chapters, the author is clearly laid out how to teach the more discerning and analytical kind of followers of Abhisamaya Alamkara, for example. It says, Druptan Temban Namdani.
산젤라 kunjo sum
So Sankhya Druptan Temban Namdani, Sankhya Lasu Kunchosum. So he says the way to go about is to present the nature of the topical issue of the practice, meaning present true truths as the base, Then Drupta Tempa then present the operation of the Four Noble Truths within the framework of the True Truths, and then present Sankhya laws of Kunjusam, Buddhas, and so on, the three jewels. So this is how Maitreya Buddha suggests that one goes about helping the discerning and intelligent.
지진 잠만 공부 성주에 등어서 누저 밀라 송이 있었다스라
So I was, doesn't it seem like that Maitreya Buddha gave such a teaching in view of the fact that his future, anyway, in view of the Western audience?
당골로 좀 제시해체 아니 야주나라 대야보다
So first become educated, informed, and then become Buddhist. That's what is happening.
다 대샤오라
Like,
레라 렌신인데 템바데 산제 신데 미데 어바